It's Sunday afternoon. Your friends are gathered around a TV screaming at a game. The energy is electric, everyone's invested, everyone's excited, and you're sitting there thinking, why do they care so much about other people playing a game? Why do I feel so disconnected from this? What's wrong with me? Nothing's wrong with you. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about something that affects millions of people but nobody really discusses openly: not caring about sports. In a world that's absolutely obsessed with sports, where grown men cry about their team losing, where sports bars are packed every weekend, where everyone seems to bond over watching other people play games, there's a significant portion of the population that just doesn't get it. And if you're one of those people, you've probably felt the pressure. You've probably felt like you're missing something. You've probably wondered if there's something psychologically wrong with you. There isn't. In fact, not caring about sports is completely normal and psychologically interesting. Let me explain why. First, let's understand what sports fandom actually is from a psychological perspective. Sports fandom is a form of tribalism. It's deeply rooted in human psychology. We evolved in tribes, and tribes competed with other tribes. Sports allows us to channel that ancient tribalistic instinct in a safe way. When you support a sports team, you're part of a tribe. You have an enemy tribe, the rival team. You experience victory and defeat along with your tribe members. You bond through shared experiences and shared enemies. This is powerful stuff psychologically. It activates the same neural pathways as actual survival competition. That's why people get so emotionally invested. That's why watching a game can feel as stressful as actual danger. Their brains are literally experiencing it as tribal warfare, even though it's just a game. But here's the thing, not everyone has the same psychological need for this kind of tribalism. Not everyone's brain is wired the same way. And that's what this video is really about. The first reason you might not care about sports is temperament. Psychologists talk about something called the Big Five personality traits. One of them is called openness to experience. People high in openness tend to be interested in ideas, in abstract concepts, in novelty. People low in openness tend to be more interested in routine and concrete practical things. But there's another trait that's particularly relevant for sports. It's called conscientiousness. Actually, it's a combination of several traits. Some people are what we call introverts. Introverts get their energy from solitude and focused activities. They don't necessarily need the stimulation of a crowd or the excitement of competition to feel engaged. If you're naturally introverted, or if you're someone who gets satisfied by quieter, more focused activities, sports might just not scratch the same itch for you that it does for extroverts. You might find the noise, the energy, the excitement actually draining rather than energizing. The second reason you might not care about sports is that your attention and interest are distributed elsewhere. We all have limited attention and energy. If you're deeply interested in other things, books, music, art, science, gaming, movies, your career, you might not have psychological bandwidth for sports. Your brain is already deeply engaged with the things that interest you. This isn't a character flaw, it's just how interests work. Some people can have broad, scattered interests. Other people have narrower, deeper interests. If your interests are deep and focused, sports might not be part of that. And that's fine. You're using your limited attention on the things that matter to you. The third reason is what psychologists call Schadenfreude immunity. This is the ability to feel pleasure in others' failure. Sports fandom requires at least some ability to enjoy your rival team losing, to feel satisfaction when your team wins at someone else's expense. Some people have this naturally. Some people don't. If you're someone who tends toward empathy and you feel uncomfortable with Schadenfreude, if you actually feel bad when people are disappointed or upset, you might not enjoy sports. You might watch a game and think about the fans of the losing team and feel bad for them. You might not be able to fully enjoy your team's victory because you empathize with the other team's loss. This is not a weakness. This is actually a sign of higher empathy. The fourth reason is that you might not have grown up with sports as part of your culture. If sports weren't important in your family, if your parents didn't watch games, if you weren't pushed to participate in sports as a kid, you might not have developed the neural pathways that make sports engaging. Your brain never learned to find sports exciting. This is important because much of our interests are actually culturally and environmentally determined. If you grew up in an environment where books were valued, you probably love reading. If you grew up where music was valued, you probably love music. If you grew up where sports weren't emphasized, you probably don't care about sports. This isn't a personality defect. It's just how development works. The fifth reason is that sports requires what's called parasocial attachment. You have to care about people you don't know. You have to feel invested in their success or failure. You have to form an emotional bond with people who don't know you exist. For some people, this comes naturally. For others, it feels artificial or pointless. If you're someone who prefers relationships where there's actual reciprocal connection, you might find the idea of being emotionally invested in professional athletes' games feel hollow. Why care about millionaires playing a game when you could invest your emotional energy in actual relationships with real people in your life? The sixth reason is that you might be someone who finds the actual game boring. Not everyone finds the same things interesting. Some people are fascinated by strategy and pattern recognition. Some people are fascinated by physical performance. Some people are fascinated by storytelling and narrative. If you're someone who's bored by sports themselves, who doesn't find strategy interesting, who's not impressed by athletic ability, who doesn't care about winning and losing, then sports just won't engage you. And that's okay. Now, here's something really important. In our culture, not caring about sports can create social friction. You might feel excluded. You might feel like you're missing out on bonding with friends or colleagues. You might feel pressure to fake interest or to learn enough about sports to fit in. Let me tell you why this happens. Sports is one of the few culturally accepted forms of tribalism and emotional intensity that men, particularly, are allowed to have. In many cultures, men are socialized to suppress their emotions, but sports provide an outlet where men can yell, cry, hug strangers, and feel intense emotions without judgment. It's psychologically healthy in many ways. Because of this, sports becomes a bonding activity. It's how people connect. And if you're not into sports, you might feel left out because you don't have access to this bonding ritual. But here's the reality. You don't need to care about sports to be okay. You don't need to force yourself to be interested. You don't need to fake enthusiasm. Not caring about sports is completely legitimate. That said, here are some ways to navigate being a non-sports person in a sports-obsessed culture. First, find your own rituals and activities that serve the same psychological function as sports for others. If you need tribalism, find communities built around your interests. If you need excitement and stimulation, find activities that provide that. If you need bonding with friends, create your own bonding rituals that are based on things you actually care about. Second, be honest about it. When someone asks you if you watch the game, you can say, "No, I'm not really into sports." You don't have to apologize. You don't have to make excuses. Most people will just move on to someone else who wants to talk about it, and that's fine. Third, show curiosity about other people's interests without needing to share them. You don't have to care about sports to ask a sports fan about their favorite team or to listen while they talk about the game. You can be genuinely interested in why they care without caring yourself. This keeps you connected to people without requiring you to pretend. Fourth, recognize that there's actually a psychological benefit to not caring about sports. You have more mental energy for other things. You don't experience the stress and emotional volatility that come with being invested in something you can't control. You're not wasting energy on outcomes that don't affect your life. That's actually quite psychologically efficient. Fifth, understand that this is becoming more normalized. More and more people, particularly younger generations, don't care about sports. The percentage of people who follow sports is actually declining. You're not as alone as you might think. There are millions of people who share your lack of interest. Sixth, if you do feel pressure to care about sports for social or professional reasons, you can develop enough superficial knowledge to participate in basic conversations without actually being interested. You can know the names of the major teams in your area. You can know if your team is doing well. You can ask people about their teams. You can nod along. You don't need to pretend to be passionately interested, just present enough to not stand out. But here's what I really want to emphasize. You should not spend mental energy feeling bad about not caring about sports. This is not a deficit. This is not a sign that you're not masculine enough or social enough or normal enough. This is just how your brain is wired, and that's completely okay. There are people who care passionately about sports, and there are people who don't. Both are normal. Both are healthy. The only problem arises when you're trying to be something you're not, when you're performing interest you don't have, when you're judging yourself for being different. Let me be clear about something. There's nothing wrong with sports. Sports are great. They provide community, excitement, storytelling, physical inspiration, and joy for billions of people. If you're someone who loves sports, that's wonderful. I'm not saying sports are bad. I'm saying that not caring about sports is not bad either. It's just a different way of being. It's a different distribution of interest and attention. It's a different way of bonding and finding community. In a culture that often tells us we should all like the same things, that tells us our interests should be predictable based on our gender or age or geography, there's something actually quite rebellious about simply not caring. You're not pretending. You're not performing. You're just being authentically yourself. And in a world of so much performance and pretense, that's rare and valuable. So if you're someone who doesn't care about sports, I want you to know you're not broken. You're not missing something. You're not weird. You're just human. You're just wired the way you're wired. And there are millions of other people like you. And if you're someone who does care about sports, maybe this video helped you understand the people in your life who don't. Maybe it helped you see that their lack of interest isn't a personal rejection of something you love. They're just wired differently. And that's okay too. Thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments, are you someone who doesn't care about sports? How do you navigate that in a sports-obsessed culture? And if you love sports, what is it about them that captures your interest so intensely? I'd love to hear your perspective. I'll see you in the next video.